Sarah Martinez stood frozen in the middle of the crowded office as her boss's voice echoed through the entire floor. "You're fired. Clean out your desk, now." Every head turned. Whispers filled the air. Some coworkers looked away in embarrassment. Others pulled out their phones, ready to capture what would happen next. Sarah had worked at Horizon Tech for 12 years. 12 years of early mornings, late nights, and missed family dinners. And now it was ending like this, in front of everyone. But what Sarah did in the next 5 minutes wouldn't just change her life, it would change everything. Let me take you back 3 months. Sarah was a senior software engineer at Horizon Tech, a mid-sized company in Seattle. She wasn't the flashiest employee. She didn't schmooze with executives or take credit for other people's work. She just showed up every day and did her job exceptionally well. But 6 months ago, everything changed when Marcus Bennett became the new CEO. Marcus was young, ambitious, and ruthless. He came from a Silicon Valley giant with one mission: cut costs and maximize profits, no matter what. Within weeks, Marcus started replacing long-time employees with cheaper, younger workers. The office culture that Sarah loved, the one built on respect and collaboration, vanished overnight. Sarah watched as colleagues who'd become friends were let go without warning. Good people, talented people, people with families and mortgages. And she couldn't stay silent. 3 months before that fateful day, Sarah did something that would seal her fate. During a company-wide meeting, Marcus announced another round of layoffs, disguised as restructuring for innovation. Sarah raised her hand. "Marcus, with all due respect, we've lost 30% of our experienced staff in 6 months. Our product quality is suffering. Customer complaints are up 40%. Maybe we should reconsider this approach?" The room went silent. You could hear a pin drop. Marcus smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Sarah, is it? Thank you for your concern. But I think I know how to run a company. Anyone else have questions about things that are actually relevant?" The humiliation stung, but Sarah didn't regret speaking up. From that day forward, Marcus made her life miserable. He excluded her from important meetings. He questioned every line of code she wrote. He assigned her to projects that were set up to fail, then blamed her when they did. Sarah knew what he was doing. He wanted her to quit, but she refused to give him the satisfaction. The morning of her firing started like any other. Sarah arrived at 7 a.m., coffee in hand, ready to tackle the mountain of work on her desk. But when she logged into her computer, something was wrong. The project she'd been working on for 3 months, a critical system update that would go live in 2 weeks, had been completely changed. Someone had overridden her code with a cheaper, faster solution. A solution that Sarah knew would create massive security vulnerabilities. Her heart sank as she traced the changes. They came from Marcus's new hire, a junior developer with barely 2 years of experience, who happened to be Marcus's former fraternity brother. Sarah immediately sent an email to Marcus, copying the IT security team. "This code change creates serious security risks. We need to revert to the previous version immediately." 20 minutes later, Marcus stormed out of his office. His face was red. His hands were shaking with rage. "You," he pointed at Sarah. "My office, now." Sarah followed him, her stomach churning. She knew this wasn't going to end well. Inside his office, Marcus didn't even let her sit down. "How dare you undermine my decisions? How dare you embarrass my hire? in front of the entire IT department. "Marcus, I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. There's a genuine security." "I don't want to hear it," Marcus interrupted. "You've been a problem since day one. You question everything. You demoralize the team. You're stuck in the past." "That's not true. I'm trying to protect the company." "You're fired," Marcus shouted so loud that people outside could definitely hear. "Get out of my office, clean out your desk, and get out of my building." Sarah stood there for a moment, processing what just happened. Then she quietly nodded and walked out. Back at her desk, with everyone watching, Sarah could feel the weight of their stares. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked relieved it wasn't them. A few looked almost gleeful, glad to see someone else taken down. Sarah opened her desk drawer and pulled out a small cardboard box. Her hands were surprisingly steady. She placed her coffee mug in the box, then her family photo, then the plant her daughter had given her for Mother's Day. But then she did something unexpected. She sat down at her computer and started typing. "What's she doing?" someone whispered. "Is she deleting files? Is she going to send some angry email?" For 10 minutes, Sarah typed without stopping. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Her expression was calm, focused. Marcus emerged from his office, arms crossed, watching her with a smug smile. He was probably hoping she'd cause a scene, give him a reason to call security, make herself look bad. But Sarah didn't look at him. She just kept typing. Finally, she hit send. Then she calmly closed her laptop, placed it in the box with her belongings, and stood up. The entire office had gone silent, waiting to see what would happen next. Sarah walked toward the exit, carrying her box. But as she passed Marcus, she stopped and turned to face him. "You'll want to check your email," she said quietly. "All of you will." And then she walked out. The moment Sarah left, dozens of phones buzzed simultaneously. People opened their emails and jaws dropped. Sarah had sent a company-wide email, but it wasn't angry, it wasn't vindictive, it wasn't even about her. Firing. The subject line read, "Security Vulnerability Report and Solutions Please Read Immediately." In the email, Sarah had done something remarkable. She'd spent her last 10 minutes at the company documenting every single security flaw in the new code, explaining in clear, simple terms what would happen if those flaws weren't fixed, and providing step-by-step solutions to address each problem. But there was more. Sarah had also attached documentation of every successful project she'd worked on over 12 years. Every innovation, every problem she'd solved, every instance where her expertise had saved the company time and money. And at the bottom, she'd written this: "To my former colleagues, I loved working with you. You're talented, dedicated people who deserve leadership that values your expertise and treats you with respect. To Marcus, I don't write this with anger. I write this because I still care about this company and the people in it. The changes I've recommended aren't about proving you wrong. They're about protecting something we all built together. I hope you'll consider them. And to everyone, standing up for what's right sometimes costs us something, but staying silent costs us more. Whatever happens next, I hope you'll remember that your voice matters. Your experience matters. Your integrity matters. Thank you for 12 wonderful years. With respect and gratitude, Sarah Martinez." The office erupted in chaos. Within an hour, something unexpected happened. 3 senior developers walked into Marcus's office together and handed him a joint letter. They were resigning, effective immediately, unless Marcus reconsidered his decision about Sarah. "You can't be serious," Marcus sputtered. "You're going to throw away your careers over her?" "We're not throwing away anything," one of them said. "We're standing up for what's right." Sarah was right about the security flaws. She was right about the layoffs hurting quality. And firing her for telling the truth was wrong. Within 2 hours, the IT security team had reviewed Sarah's concerns and confirmed she was absolutely correct. The new code had vulnerabilities that could have led to a massive data breach. By the end of the day, 7 more employees had submitted their resignations. But the real bombshell came 3 days later. Remember that email Sarah sent? It didn't just go to Horizon Tech employees. Sarah had also BCA'd the board of directors. The board, who had been largely hands-off with Marcus, suddenly took notice. They commissioned an independent review of his management decisions. What they found was damning. Quality was down, employee morale was at an all-time low, customer retention had dropped 20%, and the company was weeks away from a potentially catastrophic security breach. 2 weeks after Sarah was fired, Marcus was the one cleaning out his desk. But here's where the story takes an even more unexpected turn. Sarah didn't spend those 2 weeks sitting at home, angry and bitter. She spent them doing something incredible. She reached out to every single employee who had been laid off under Marcus's leadership. She created a group chat. She organized virtual coffee meetings. She listened to their stories, and she realized something. Between all of them, they had enough talent and expertise to start their own company. So that's exactly what they did. Sarah used her savings to rent a small office space. 5 of the laid-off employees joined her as co-founders. They called the company Bridges Tech because they wanted to build bridges, not burn them. Their first product? A software solution that addressed the exact problems they'd seen at Horizon Tech, security-focused, user-friendly, and built by people who actually cared about quality over quick profits. Within 3 months, Bridges Tech landed its first major client. Within 6 months, they had 12 employees, all people who had left Horizon Tech, voluntarily to join Sarah's team. And within a year, something poetic happened. Horizon Tech, struggling after Marcus's departure and the exodus of talent, reached out to Bridges Tech with a proposal. They wanted to become a client. The board personally called Sarah to apologize and to ask if her company could help fix the problems Marcus had created. Sarah could have said no. She could have gloated. She could have watched her former company fail and felt vindicated. But that wasn't who she was. She said yes, but on one condition: Horizon Tech had to commit to treating their remaining employees with respect, to valuing expertise over cost-cutting, and to rebuilding the culture of collaboration they'd lost. The board agreed. Today, Bridges Tech is thriving with over 50 employees. Sarah is the CEO, but she's nothing like Marcus. She remembers what it felt like to be disrespected, dismissed, and fired for doing the right thing. She created a company culture where people's voices matter, where experience is valued, where standing up for what's right is celebrated, not punished. And as for Horizon Tech, they're slowly rebuilding with new leadership that actually listens. Several former Horizon employees who joined Sarah at Bridges Tech eventually returned to Horizon, not because they had to, but because both companies had become places worth working for. Sarah's story teaches us something powerful. How you respond to your worst moments defines you more than the moments themselves. She could have left angry. She could have sabotaged the company on her way out. She could have burned bridges and made enemies. Instead, she left with grace. She documented her concerns not out of spite, but out of genuine care for her colleagues who remained. She used her firing as a catalyst to create something better, not just for herself, but for everyone who'd been hurt by toxic leadership. The day Marcus yelled, "You're fired," in front of everyone, he thought he was ending Sarah's career. Instead, he launched it. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the beginning of your best chapter. Sometimes losing a job means finding your purpose, and sometimes the person who fires you does you the biggest favor of your life. They force you to bet on yourself. Sarah Martinez bet on herself, and she won. But more importantly, she built something that helped dozens of other people win too. So the next time life knocks you down, remember Sarah's story. Remember that grace is stronger than anger, that integrity outlasts revenge, and that your response to injustice can either make you bitter or make you better. Choose better every time. What would you have done in Sarah's situation? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story inspired you, please like and subscribe. For more stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, remember, how you leave matters just as much as how you arrive. See you in the next one.